Got a basket case. This is a BMW R100. It's a 1000cc boxer engine. And I've got this bike in. They replaced the crank because the big end bearings on the connecting rods spun and all the brass went to the case. And this is a new, well, a used, new to it crankshaft. The bushings underneath the seal, I haven't put this in yet. But these pieces, they ran into some problem with the lining pin after they tightened up the flywheel. They crushed one for that thrust. So that's why it's here now. They got intimidated by that. The next obstacle for me is getting this rear main seal in. I had to order a new one, and it comes with a lip retainer. The old ones were kind of a fabric. The original one's kind of a fabric. It absorbs oil, and they say to soak it in oil for a while before you install this. You really kind of get one shot at it. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. Just placing it up here and touching, since it's such a large diameter, the odds of getting it in crooked are pretty big. So I'm going to make a installation tool. If you get one of these before that seal's pulled out, measure the distance before you take it out, because that distance depends, the lip on this seal rides on the flywheel. Now this flywheel is going to look different than yours. I'll explain that in a second. But that lip rides on a specific point in here. So I'm going to have to be guessing at this. It's a different type of seal, a new modern style. So as long as I'm in an area that's not worn out, I think we'll be fine. But this flywheel, if you take a look at it, you can see they have machined out a lot of mass from this. All these holes are drilled to lighten this flywheel. It'll be interesting to see how that works. I considered replacing it with the OEM, but all the ones I've seen on eBay are used, and the teeth look horrible on them, and that's something that you would probably need. That's more important than the weight of it, is that the starter has good engagement. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. Even though it's not stock, and there might be some riding characteristics that are unfavorable being this light, it's still in better shape than a used OEM. Let's see what we've got that'll fit over this and touch the outer portion of the seal. And these are my cheap estimator calipers. Roughly 3.5 inches, 3.44. I've got some 3-inch PVC pipe, schedule 40. It looks like it's gonna, the outer edge of this is gonna touch where we want. We're just gonna have to cut some off the inside here. Abort! See what we've done, and that's gonna go just like that. So flip the case on its end, and I'm really not intimidated by this anymore at all. So now that we've got this driver, I'm going to tap around until this is flush with the case evenly, and just take your time and make sure you don't drive one side in more than the other. Definitely don't want to go too deep. If you go too deep, you'll mess up that lip. Okay, so what do we got here? Using our finger. A little high here. So tipping it just a little. And there we go. Even when you think it's clean, you get a white paper towel and you'll see. Just keep going until you get all that grime out. Okay, now before we put this flywheel on, let's mark the timing marks on there with some white paint marker or red paint marker so we can find it easier. That's a pitfall that's coming up. Make sure your engine's at top dead center and that the OT mark is visible through your inspection hole. To make this easier in the future, because I don't know, nobody plans on having their bike apart again, let's paint inside these marks with some good old paint marker. So this will be a lot easier to find in the future. So here's our timing mark. And here's OT. Let's drop this down. I'll mention too that this needs to be perfectly clean. Oil in this O-ring, no grit or anything. Make sure this surface is clean and smooth. We're going to drop this down, the OT mark. Send it home. Double check our work. Okay. Let's put a bolt in there just to hold its place. To torque these bolts in a series of 3 steps. It consists of just a rod, a flat bar if you will, that bolts from the transmission mount holes, and then you could run a bolt into the flywheel and that'll lock it. This one's been modified with these holes. I'm going to take advantage of that and stick a screwdriver handle through there and catch that oil pump flange. Its final torque is 72 to 76 foot-pounds. I'm going to start at 20. $72. Woo. So now that everything's torqued and bolted, there's 2 measurements I want to take to make sure that everything's okay, and that is the infloat of this crankshaft in its case, where those thrust washers come into play, and that is 3,000 to almost 6,000. So we'll check that with the indicator, and then radial run out. When this is turning, it's got to match that clutch surface squarely, and its limit is just under 4 thousandths. Turn the engine over. Right? Got some deflection from the setup here, but what can you do? 3 thousandths is a lot. So, pretty happy with that. You know, I saw about 1 thousandth. Let's check the infloat. I'm going to push the flywheel into the case and 0 at that. I'm just going to have to preload it here. And I'm just grabbing the crankshaft since there's no pistons in here, just pulling it from inside the case. Okay, that's it. Right there. It's 5 thousandths. Push that back into 0. So 5 thousandths. Okay, it's not that tight. Remember earlier we talked about that problem, and the infloat range is 3 thousandths to almost 6. So we're good.